Sorry. Yes. Why is it moving? Can I check with you first whether or not you can see my second slide? I'm in the second slide on thesis now. Which slide do you see? The first one?
We only see the first slide.
The first one.
The first one with my name.
No.
It's always creating problem. How about now? Which slide do you see?
Thesis, yes. Second.
Second. Thesis. Thesis, huh? Okay, good. Okay, so I believe we can start now. Again, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good afternoon to all. Thank you very much for your time to be with us here for our discussion on Viva. Okay, I believe this is one of the topic designed by the university, especially IPS, to be shared with the students so that at least they can be well prepared for the Viva. It is important. Viva is a very critical stage of your study. The pass or fail will be decided especially usually during the Viva session. So now we can't afford to have any mistake during the Viva session. Right, so for this particular course or for this particular session or sharing this afternoon, I'm Ahmad Zuri Abdullah from School of Chemical Engineering. We'll be sharing with you about Viva and what you should know and what you should actually avoid, do's and don'ts. Okay, in the second slide now, right? This is, I think you know that for your study to be completed, you may have to submit a certain thesis or dissertation. For us, thesis is usually the report that come from research mode, and dissertation usually the report that should come from mixed mode or coursework. Okay, usually you should know the difference. What is thesis? What is actually dissertation? Thesis is from research mode. But of course, they can be treated together, meaning to say that they are just report for evaluation. All right, they should consist of a number of sections. Probably you can see here, abstract, introduction, literature review, methods, result, discussion, and conclusion. Usually these are the normal sections or chapters that the thesis or dissertation should contain, and they are meant to serve different purposes, but as a whole they are all intercomplementary. They're all supporting each other. They are all interrelated. Okay, take that note. And it could be master, it could be PhD. We just treat them the same. As far as the Viva is concerned, usually the treatment that you receive from the university is just the same. But of course, probably the in terms of the expectation could be different. For PhD, usually we expect it to be of better quality, more extensively done, and it can be in terms of the novelty, in terms of the significance of the findings and all that. Usually, the expectation would be more for PhD, but for master and PhD, in terms of the Viva, usually we treat them the same. Okay. After your study, after your experiment, after your research work, you will have to come out with one report for examination in the form of thesis or dissertation. And before that, I think you know that you have to submit the notice for thesis submission, right? Notice for thesis submission. You have to submit that beforehand, because through that notice, we will appoint examiners to your thesis. And these examiners will be contacted accordingly, and they should actually respond positively or respond on their readiness to act as the examiners to the thesis. So in a way, the process takes time. Don't rush. Don't do it last minute, because it requires some planning and it requires some process at the school level. Usually, for the thesis to be examined, or for the notice of submission, probably need to do minimum 3 months in advance, based on my experience. Okay, for your information, I used to be deputy dean. Currently, I'm the dean of the school, but earlier I was the deputy dean for research, handling all these postgrad matters. So we had a lot of experience, a lot of cases that require some intervention from our side, right? So based on that, I think I should share with you certain information about the thesis examination and thesis submission process in the first place. Okay, it's important that you need to know. Don't do it last minute, because sometimes it happened last time. Student actually approached us to submit a thesis and without any notice, and they brought in the thesis. Okay, so it was not allowed. Why? Because we need to appoint the examiner first through the notice for thesis submission. Right. Once the thesis is submitted, okay, let's say everything is properly done. So the thesis will be distributed to the examiners. Usually, examiners will have more or less about 2 months for us. For some other university, it could be slightly shorter. It depends. But for our case, usually the examiners will be given more or less about 2 months from the date of the submission. Okay, for PhD, and 1 month for master. Okay, of course, the master is usually in terms of the thickness, it could be thinner. In terms of the content, it could be less. Then, in terms of the examination, lesser time is needed. For PhD, maybe longer. So because of that, we provide longer time accordingly for them to read the thesis, identify some concern or comments, and write in the report and submit the report first. Okay, 2 months and 1 month for master. Don't expect you submit today, within 1 month you want to have Viva for your PhD, okay, study. No, it might not be possible. It may possible if everything is well arranged for you, but usually in the normal circumstances, it is not really possible. Okay, 2 months is usually the normal duration. It could be more than that. Why is it so? Because we'll be waiting for examiners to submit the report, and we will be making the arrangement for the Viva to be arranged. Okay, so you need to wait. Okay, need to wait. Need to consult the supervisor on any concern, and nothing much can be done. You just wait, because to set the the date for the Viva, we may have difficulty as well, because examiners need to be there, both internal and external. Supervisors, main supervisor should be there. So we need to catch these people. So sometimes three are available, another one is not available, or something the other way around. It depends. So we may come up with several suggestions for the dates. But don't worry, the date will be identified, and you will have to go for the Viva. All right. And the question here is that you need to prepare yourself for the Viva. All right, that is the most important question for you to actually uh, understand and also put special attention to. Right. Uh, Probably I can share with you how a typical examination report, thesis examination report looks. Okay, looks like. Usually, it consists of two different parts. One is the guided one, and another one is the free format. So they can write anything. The guided one is just based on a question. They need to respond accordingly. For the free format one, they can write whatever concern, whatever comment that they can, and sometimes some other comment on the recommendation for award and all that. And subsequently, this is the most important one for the student to know, right? As given here, section D. Section D is on the recommendation, whether or not you pass, whether or not you fail, whether or not you are required to do correction, minor or major. Usually for section D, it consists of five different scale. Based on my experience, scale 1 is very, very, very rare because we don't want to give scale 1 as if everything is so perfect. Because usually, be realistic, okay? Nothing is perfect in our dissertation or thesis, right? Some weaknesses will be there, okay? And sometimes what we do, the way we do it might not be acceptable to certain examiners, right? So they will still come up with some comment or concern or suggestion for correction. So usually scale 1 is very, very rare. Don't worry, all right? Because even though you don't get scale 1, you can still pass, right? Scale 2 is a minor, right? Pembetulan with minor or correction with minor correction, pass, but with minor correction that it needs to be addressed, okay? And scale 3 is even worse, right? But still pass. Pass with major corrections, major changes. So probably here you may have to do rearrangement of the content at a certain section, or probably need to add some small experiment to verify certain thing, or probably a lot of mistakes in the comment in the report that you have in your submitted thesis. So probably you will be required to do some major changes, right? Major changes could be minor but a lot. Minor, yes, of course, maybe a bit less or little amount of correction that need to be done, or probably in terms of the severity of the comment, because sometimes we may experience or a situation where it is just one comment but it's a very major one. Like for example, people are questioning about the integrity of your data. It could be major, right? If you cannot answer it properly, then the whole data cannot be acceptable to people. Then you are in trouble, right? It's just one comment, but a very severe one. Sometimes it is just minor, like a grammatical mistake, like formatting and all that. It could be minor, right? So don't worry. 2 and 3 are pass. Okay. The next one is Scala 4 is re-examination. Okay, something for you to note here is that you will have to work on your correction. They will give you the comment, the report, and you will have to address every single one, okay, in your revised version of the thesis. Or probably you will be asked to do additional experiment to make your thesis even stronger. And subsequently you will have to resubmit. Okay, scale 4 is resubmit and re-examination. So the whole examination process is repeated all over again. Okay, that is scale 4. Scale 5, I've never experienced scale 5 during my uh, time in university. Okay, in my career in ESM for the last 20 years, roughly. So I've never experienced scale 5. But scale 4, several. Okay. 1, very, very rare. Maybe 1 or 2 earlier. 2, common. 3, the most common one. So don't worry if it is still major but pass. So nothing much to worry about. Usually examiners are kind enough to allow you to graduate. Okay, but as long as you do your correction accordingly, at least meet their minimum expectation. Right? Thesis examination report, something for you to note. Submission deadline sometimes can be exceeded. We gave them 2 months for the PhD thesis, but it happened that the examiner could be so busy, super busy person, so they might exceed the time given. So it happened regularly. So that's why you have to be patient. And if it is too long, then probably you have the right to air your concern to the officer in charge. Okay. Sometimes yes, it is exceeded. It's quite common actually. And usually the report is confidential before the Viva. So before the Viva, usually don't expect it to be disclosed to you for your preparation. Usually that won't happen. Usually, by rules, that should not happen. Okay, confidential actually. The status is confidential before the Viva. And they don't have any discussion among them. Examiners prepare the report independently based on their concern, based on their examination. They prepare the report uh, individually. They don't discuss, they don't meet, okay, for the discussion in the preparation of the report. And we'll compile the report before the Viva. Okay, this is another thing for you to note. Some comments are unwritten. Okay, sometimes yes, examiners are kind enough. They don't write everything on the report in the report, but they just jot down some comment or concern in the thesis copy itself to be asked during the Viva session. So this is something more worrying, right? Because they don't want it to be recorded. They want it to be uh, addressed by the student during the Viva session, orally or verbally. Okay, this is something for you to note. It may happen. It always happen actually. And examiners must attend the Viva, of course. Yeah. This is different. Is actually a Viva versus session is all about. You have to defend your work. By right, you should be the master of your work because everything is written by you. So you should know your thesis, your dissertation inside out. All right, that is my advice to you. If you are not really sure, then I think it could be too bad, knowing that you yourself actually write the thesis. Okay, Viva, yes, is a very important session. The only thing is that you have to prepare yourself, right? So if you know that it is your work, you are the one who will write your thesis, so why worry, right? And you are the one who read the most about the topic. You read more than your supervisors. Okay, take it that way, right? Because we are researchers. The supervisors are just guiding. They are facilitating, supervising. They don't really read that much. So we read maybe 300, 400 references and they just read maybe 10, 20 the most. So who should have more knowledge? It should be us, researcher. So why worry, right? We should be the master of our work. Then definitely any question, any concern can be asked, but we should be prepared to answer. Right. So now the Viva session, they will take turn to ask you question, to bombard you with the question. Okay, they will take turn. And if you know your topic well, so why worry? Just answer it in a calm manner, in a polite manner, in a proper manner, and should not be worrying too much because they are also human. They are also supervisors. They used to be students last time. They know how the situation is, right? So don't worry, stay calm and try to really address the question accordingly. Right? So some advice for you, the do's, okay? Prepare yourself. You need to prepare your slides. Discuss with the supervisor. We'll discuss about slides later. Okay? Be calm because you are the master of your work. You are the ones who write. You are the ones who actually read more than anyone else in the Viva room. Right? Take it that way. You read more, you know more. People can challenge you with the comment or concern or questions. You should be able to answer. Okay, sometimes yes, of course, to be frank, we don't know everything, right? And sometimes those who ask you question don't know everything. They don't know what they are talking about. Sometimes that's what happens. They just want to test your knowledge. If you are not able to answer certain question, probably you can relate with something that you know. As long as you say something, okay, it's important. You say something, people can see that you are a person with a certain knowledge about the topic, then it will be acceptable to them. It'll be too bad if you just stay quiet without any ability to answer question. It happened in many of Vivas that I attended earlier. It's too bad, especially for PhD, because PhD by right they should be expert in the area. They should be able to demonstrate themselves to be someone who is knowledgeable about the topic. So they should be able to answer, or if they don't know the answer, they should be able to relate with the topic that they know. Okay, we are expecting that, but we don't expect students to be able to answer every single question. No one is able to answer every single question. No. Okay, as long as we know our topic, then we can try to relate with whatever thing that we know to address any question. And need to bring the original thesis, the version that you submit, not the draft one, and bring the hard copy. You can supplement with the soft copy, but bring the hard copy as well, because easy for you to flip through pages. Okay, if you have several version of the thesis, you make sure you bring the one that is referred or that is submitted to the examiners, because sometimes the thesis can be revised from time to time, formatted and all that accordingly. So because of that, we can have situation where there'll be changes in the page number and all that. Why? During the Viva, usually people will say, okay, refer to page 80, second paragraph, something like that. So if your page 80 is different from the page 80 in the examinations, so in the examiner's copy, then you are in trouble, right? It will simply add uh, more difficult situation to the already difficult situation during the Viva session. Okay. And for the presentation, keep to the time limit. Usually limit to 5 or 15 minutes. Usually, you can prepare more slides, but for the presentation, limit to 15 minutes. In case people ask you questions after that, if you have some additional slide to show, then by all means you can show. But usually for presentation, limit it to 15 minutes, because probably in many Vivas that I've been to, after 15 minutes, you will be asked to stop. Okay, so no point you prepare so many slides, in the end you are not allowed to present. And can attach some slide after thank you slide. Yeah, thank you. Okay, now thank you means already 15 minutes. You may have additional slides after that. In case you anticipate any question, you want to show some data, some result, you can show. But in the presentation, don't think that you have to present every single thing that you write in your thesis. No, it is not that way. Okay, you are wrong to say that. The presentation during the Viva is just for you to highlight something more significant in your work, the significant part of your work, the contribution that can be clearly seen from your work. Don't show everything because you don't have time, right? Especially PhD, you do a lot. You won't have time, right? So try to be a bit selective to decide suitable information or slides that can show that your work is so significant, your work has a certain scientific and academic values. All right, just be limited to those kind of information. The rest they have seen actually in the thesis. So why worry? Need to be a bit professional, be polite and responsive. Okay, polite, of course. Don't be so arrogant. Don't be so aggressive. Responsive. Okay, this is another thing. If people ask you, please answer politely. Sometimes, yeah, students actually fail to respond. People keep on asking, the examiners keep on asking, but the student fail to respond, to the extent that examiners take turn to ask question, without any single answer from the student. It's too bad. It's too bad. Why is it so? Because as if you don't know the topic, while as a matter of fact, it is your work. You are the one who write your report. But if people ask you, you don't know every single thing, so many things people ask you, you don't know, it will be too bad. It will bring a very bad impression on how competent you are. Then that could result in undesirable consequences of the Viva session. Yeah, it could be fail, it could be re-Viva or whatever, right? Don't do that. Okay? Don't try to dominate the discussion. Okay, of course, you are a bit on the defensive mode. Okay, so they'll be asking a question, try to respond with some answers politely. Okay, be specific on the response. Of course, try to answer the question to the best of our ability, but sometimes we don't know the answer. To be frank with you, sometimes students don't know the answer. But as I mentioned just now, need to really relate with whatever thing that you know. Bring the attention to attention of the examiners to the thing that you know, and then they can see your knowledge. They want to see that, right? It's not possible to answer every single question, but they want to see that you have knowledge. You are able to relate with what you know. Okay, careful with the ego of some examiners. Sometimes examiners want to test you. Sometimes examiners want to actually show off. They know a lot, they know more. They want to belittle your work. They want to actually show that they are better than you. Sometimes, yeah, we have different kind of people, right? Be aware of that kind of examiners. But of course, many of the examiners are reasonable people. Okay, so don't means you have to do all this. Okay, so make sure do all these things, but don't the opposite of all this. Okay, so in general, basically, you have to be prepared. You have to be uh, uh, knowledgeable about your topic. Okay, what's the purpose of Viva then? It is actually to validate your thesis and to show the examiners that the thesis is your own work. Uh, yeah, sometimes people can actually appoint someone else to do the writing on his or her behalf. Right? It can unethically, it can be done that way. But of course, the Viva is the place for us to really verify that. So if it is coming from us, definitely we should be able to answer question. Most of the question, not all of the questions. Okay. And to show that you understand what you have done and written. Because why? In the Viva, sorry, they want to see, the Viva, they want to see that whatever argument, whatever sentences, statements that you put in your thesis, you understand in the first place. Yes, it is important that we put something that we understand, but sometimes we don't understand it fully. All right, so that's the thing, and that's the reason why people can ask question. So that's why they want to see how firm we are on that particular stand. Because in argument, whatever thing that we put in the thesis to explain certain behavior or certain observation, it should be done with the sufficient level of confidence. Okay, so if yourself is a bit shaky in terms of the fundamental understanding about it, then it can be revealed during the Viva session. Okay, and to show that you are aware where your work sits in relation to the wider research field. That's why I said just now, you won't be able to know everything, but if you are able to relate with the area in the bigger picture of the area, then at least we can see the contribution of that particular research work. Okay, that your work is sufficiently high standard in terms of scientific rigor and writing maturity. We want to see that. Okay, high standard, depth, and also breadth of the work. Right, so the work usually master or PhD should not be too broad. It should be narrow and deep. Okay, and the finding should be of certain acceptable level. Right, and also at the same time we can also see the maturity of the writing skills. But now you are lucky because everything is available nowadays online. A lot of tools are available online for you to really improve your writing. improve the grammar, in terms of the improve the sentence structure, in terms of the way ideas should be expressed. So now a lot of assistance that you can get from online tools. Make use of them, but not to the extent that everything is done unethically. And to show that you can defend your work in response to the examiner's question. So people want to see your response. Why is it so? Because by having master or PhD, you will be seen as expert in the research area, right? So usually for expert, they will be referred. There will be certain people will seek for some information, for some explanation, right? So that is usually expected from an expert in a certain area. We see and on TV, we see, we hear, on the radio and all that. So basically, experts are always contacted by people for some explanation, for some opinion, right? People want to see that. So in order for you to demonstrate yourself as an expert in your area, you should be able to answer questions. Okay, even though sometimes you don't know the answer, but you may be able to relate with something that you know. Right, before the Viva, in terms of the preparation, you have to know time, date, venue, right? It happened to my own student last time. The student confused about the time. Sorry, not time, the date, even the date. So everything was ready. We all gathered in the meeting room for the Viva. We contacted the student because the student was not there when the Viva was about to start. We contacted the student, and it happened that the student was in Kelantan at the time. It's too bad, right? It it happened. It happened, right? So make sure that you take note of the date, the time, and also the venue. But nowadays, we allow online. Okay, we allow online. If you are not able to be in the Viva room, probably yes, online is also another option for you. And be prepared with the presentation material. Must be vetted by the supervisor. Okay, please do that. Need to be vetted by the supervisor. Supervisor need to read through the presentation material and agree with the content, because yeah, sometimes they may have some opinion to be offered to you before you finalize your presentation material, and probably a certain aspects of the presentation that you may forget. Okay, for example, research gap. For example, novelty of the work. For example, contribution of the study. So probably those things are critical information that are demanded from Viva session, and if they are not there in the presentation material, it is too bad. And you have to reread the thesis. Again, this is my advice to you. You have to reread the thesis. You are the ones who read, or who write the thesis, and you need to reread. Why is it so? Because PhD usually will require probably about 3 years, and probably a certain part, certain chapter of the thesis could have been written earlier, maybe the first year or second year. So in the final year of your study, probably you could be focusing on the later part of the thesis. So we tend to forget, okay, the earlier information that we have written earlier, right? So probably you need to be again well versed, okay, with the thesis content, and need to read through again thoroughly. Because why? In the Viva session, usually people will ask you, okay, let's turn to page 80, go to chapter, go to paragraph number 2. What do you mean by this? That if you are not aware of it, you will be struggling to find that particular spot in the first place, and again, you will be struggling to really identify the answer, because in the first place, you don't really remember. You are the one who actually write that particular sentence in the thesis earlier, right? So make sure you reread the thesis and prepare question and answer. Sometimes, yes, some comment or concern could originate or could have been asked to you from your journal submission. Okay, that's why my advice, always go for journal submission. Why? The first thing, you can get publication for graduation requirement. Second thing, you can get comment. Okay, it is actually an examination by itself. It is, but of course, it's not as a whole. It is a certain part of the thesis, and it will be evaluated by examiners or reviewers for the uh, journal submission, and they will come up with the comment. If they reject with the comment. So in the first place, we can get the comment or concern. This could be things that people would want to ask during the Viva session. So the more you do your submission, the more comment that you will receive along the way during your study, then the better you'll be prepared for the Viva session. Okay, please make sure you submit your manuscript for journal publication as early as possible, as many as possible. Okay, because through that we can get comment. Consult supervisor and previous student. Usually supervisor lah. Okay, previous student maybe they are also not sure. Supervisor, right? Be uh, close to the supervisor. Okay, ask about this and that. Whatever thing that you are not really clear, let hear for their advice. And try to rehearse, especially for your presentation material, and just be calm, right? Why worry? It is your work. They will be challenging what you do for 3 years, yet they only read 4, 5, 10 papers. So how can they challenge you? You should be knowing more than the examiner. Right, before the Viva, go through your thesis, familiarize yourself with your own thesis, because we tend to forget. In many occasions, I saw in the Viva, students forgot. They forgot what they have written. Because why? They have written it could be in the first year of the study or second year of the study, while the study could take 4 years, okay, for PhD. You should know where to find what in your thesis. Sometimes, yes, you receive question, you know the answer, and you want to show somewhere in your thesis, okay, that particular part is addressing that comment. But yeah, you could be thinking harder if you are not really sure about the content. You forget the whole content of the thesis, right? So that's why you have to be able to identify somewhere in your thesis that can address a certain concern. But maybe people can ask you any question, but sometimes they can ask you specific question about specific place or specific page. But sometimes they just ask you question, what is the novelty of your work? And then something like that. Okay, the novelty of the work. And it may not be exactly somewhere in the presentation or in the thesis, but you can bring the attention of the examiner to specific pages or specific sections of the thesis that you can actually address that particular question, right? So yes, of course, need to know your thesis inside out. Inside out. Anticipate question that you can be asked during the Viva. Again, it relate very much with the comment that we receive from the journal submission. Okay, all questions will be related to 4 general areas. What is it about? Where did you do? What did you do? What did you find? What does that matter? Okay, so those things are important, right? Especially this one, the last one. Why is it so? Especially for PhD, we have to highlight the significance of the work. Okay, the contribution of our work, not just to say that we discovered this and that, but how is it significant to the whole body of knowledge about that particular topic? So we need to highlight, all right, the last one here. All right, so in a way, it should show significance. Before the Viva, okay, problem statement is always the question being asked during the Viva. So make sure you know what is meant by problem statement. Okay, by definition, a concise description of an issue to be addressed or a condition to be improved upon. Okay, so that is problem statement. In short, I think you can see the figure here. You read literature review at the beginning of your study, okay, and you identify something else that could still be missing, and that something else here is actually a bridge between literature review and your work. Your work is here, right? So in a way, problem statement is actually the statement describing a certain issue, certain problem to be addressed. Okay, and we are taking the initiative to address certain aspects of it. We won't be able to address all, but yeah, certain aspects of it. So that is what we mean by problem statement. Make it concise, make it specific to the study. Okay, so that is usually expected, and I expect it to be actually put or addressed in one of the slides during the Viva. Okay, problem statement. Yeah, I think by knowing the information from literature, we will be able to identify the specific problem statement. Right. So do discuss with the supervisor if you are still not really sure. I believe this is the topic of discussion for other talks. Actually, it's not really here, but make sure you know what is meant by problem statement because it need to be specific. Problem statement cannot be general. Like for example, you want to address pollution, for example, global pollution, water pollution. It might not be a problem statement because you may only do a certain water treatment to address water pollution. But the problem statement is not really the water pollution. The problem is actually in the process that you choose for the treatment of the water. Okay, so make it specific to that particular topic that you address in your work, right? It should be specific problem statement rather than general world issue, environmental pollution, economy. All those are so far from us. Okay, make it close and connected with the research work that we do. All right, another thing, research gap. A topic or area for which missing or insufficient information limits the ability to reach a conclusion for a question. So this is from literature. This is still missing. This is what we see for the future. So something missing here is what we need to address. All right, that is what we mean by research gap. People will always ask you during your Viva session, usually, what is your research gap here? What do you want to address? Okay, because you do what you do, but in the end, people don't really see that can contribute to improve, or in other words, to bridge the current or the past with the future. Okay, so make sure you know what's the research gap. And another thing you may want to add in your slide, novelty of your work. How novel it is, especially those from science and technology. The novelty means something new, new elements. It derived from Latin word for novus, for new, which is the quality of being new, for or following from that of being striking, original, and unusual. It is about new, but yeah, of course, it's very subjective. How new is new? That's the problem because sometimes we don't really expect after 3 years of study we are achieving certain too high level. Definitely we should be realistic. Okay, 3 years nothing can be achieved. So at least we can actually address a certain issue from different perspective. That is something new. We can actually widen the knowledge or the understanding about the area to a wider aspects. That is another new thing. Or if possible, then totally new information, new process. Everything is so new. Okay, so that could be, of course, a bit over ambitious. Usually, that is not really possible. Usually, as long as we are able to show we are discovering new information, we are discovering new understanding, we are actually improving the understanding about certain topic, that could be just sufficient. Okay, novelty. So research problem statement need to be given, research gap need to be given, novelty need to be aware of. Okay, right from the beginning before the Viva, so that you can prepare your slide accordingly. And another thing, usually people will ask you, what's the motivation of the study? Why is it so important? Because you do what you do, but people don't really find the reason why you do it in the first place. Because when we want to do research, we have thousands of approaches or different options for us to do. Like, for example, we want to study material A. Okay, must be a reason, because we can always do material B, material C, material D for a certain study, or E, F, G, and all that. But we choose A, must be a reason. Okay, so the motivation of the study is the reason or the justification. Why A? Why you need to do A? Why don't B? Why don't C? Okay, provide a justification, and this justification I would expect it to be something. If science and technology, usually we expect it to be something scientific, right? For example, why material A is being used as a packaging material, okay, for a certain food product, for example. Okay, why material A is being used? Not just because it is available in the lab. I just want to use it and see how. Not just that. Must be technical. What do you foresee? Okay, A has something to offer to this packaging process. Technically, it is like this, and because of that, I can foresee that it may work. Okay, for the packing of a certain food product. Okay, so that is something that we expect. Not just it is available, not just it is actually suggested by my supervisor, I just do it. No, it's not acceptable. As a researcher, you should be base your motivation of the study on certain meaningful information or certain theoretical consideration. Right? So be careful. Motivation of the study is something always being asked during the Viva because they don't see why you do this and that in the first place. Right? Sometimes yeah, we receive that kind of question answer from the student. It is there because I want to try it. It is there because it's a waste material. I want to use this to make a new material. For example, I use waste material to use to make another material with some value added properties. Yes, waste is there. Waste is something to be disposed, but to use a certain waste must be a certain justification to support it. Okay, not just it is just waste. It is available. No, not just that. Okay, make it specific reason, specific justification, and a critical need. How essential, all those need to be properly addressed to really justify the motivation of the study. And hypothesis. Hypothesis is the theory, the early theory that we can establish to really explain it. Okay, sometimes people ask you, what's the hypothesis of this? Okay, so sometimes you have to understand the word hypothesis in the first place. Okay, make sure you understand the word hypothesis in the first place, because research work is always to address a certain hypothesis, whether that hypothesis is to be accepted or the hypothesis is to be rejected. Why is it so important? Because at least we do a study with a certain consideration based on the theory, based on the desired result. Okay, based on that, if it is happening that way, then at least that is proven. If it is not happening that way, then we have to reject that particular understanding and establish a new one. So hypothesis is something important for our research study, and usually people can ask you about this. So make sure you have answers to this, just in case you are facing Viva very soon. At least all this should be put into your uh, planning for presentation materials. Okay, Viva committee, Viva chairman. It is actually USM style. Okay, I'm telling you, USM style. We need to have Viva chairman from different discipline, usually not from your own school, different discipline, different school, different PTJ. Secretary is usually the administrator in your own school, usually deputy assistant registrar. Okay, and dean representative. Dean, it could be dean, but most of the time it could be just representative of the dean. Why is it so important? This particular person is not part of the examiners. They are just there to moderate the discussion just in case they are involved in a very heavy dispute or disagreement, at least this person can offer uh, independent opinion about that topic or about that argument, right? At least we need someone neutral in this case, because examiners are usually they are in a team, supervisors and students are on the other side of the team, defensive. So the here are offensive, examiners are offensive role. We are here playing a defensive role, but at least we have someone neutral here. Secretariat won't be involved, don't worry. Chairman sometime can also be involved, but of course they can ask questions, but definitely the main concern should come from examiners. And supervisors are on your side, why worry? Okay, so these are the membership of Viva committee in our university. It could be slightly different from other universities. Like for example, in UTP, main supervisors are not allowed to be in. They are allowed only for the presentation, and after that they will be asked to leave the Viva room. Okay, why worry? Because main supervisor, he's on your side. He or she is on your side, and probably some university think that they should not be there because it is actually the event between the examiners and the student. Okay, so because of that, the supervisors are not really allowed to be in the Viva room. But here in USM, they are allowed. Okay, so deemed representatives usually they are not really involved, but sometimes yes, they can be involved and their opinion could be critical still. Right. So how it is conducted in USM? Usually, we will gather. Okay, all the panel will gather in the Viva room or maybe in the online platform. In your absence, maybe initially you could be there together, but when they start discussing, you will be asked to leave for a while. So they'll have a early discussion first to really set the tone for the discussion. What are the main concerns from examiners, every examiner, and the chairman will collect all the information for them to really have certain understanding before the Viva start. Okay, so once they are firm on their early assessment on the Viva, they will ask the student to be there. So now the student will have a chance to defend. Okay, start with the presentation first. Presentation is always to show the significant part of the word. Don't show everything because you will simply exceed the time given. Right? So after that, they will ask you general question first. After the presentation of 15 minutes, usually 1-5, they will ask you general questions first. And probably they will challenge you about economy, about industry, about ethics, about the general understanding about the topic and all that. Okay, so they don't really show any specific sections of your thesis. They just ask you questions so that they can see your response and they can test your knowledge. After that, once done, they will start asking you specific question, and usually they will go chapter by chapter from the beginning to the end. Okay, specification. They will take turn, and from chapter 1. Okay, this person asks first question, this second person asks another question, another question. Once everything done for the first chapter, they will proceed with another chapter. Okay, they will start from the beginning to the end. So here is the most critical stage of your defense, right? Because you will be given the chance to respond. Please, please, please take the opportunity to respond. Okay, don't just keep quiet, accepting every single comment uh, given by the examiner. Sometimes, yes, that is something sometimes happen to the student during my Viva, the Viva that I've been to. It is too bad because you are the expert. You are another step to be called an expert in the area. But when people challenge you with a certain question, you are unable to answer or respond accordingly. It is too bad. As if you are not really ready to be called an expert in the area. Okay, so here make sure you know, make sure you answer the questions to the best of your ability. And sometimes if you don't know, you answer something that you know. You confuse them, you bring their attention to something that you know. So in a way, they can see, oh, you know something. You don't know the question and the answer to the question, but you know something else. Then at least that is still acceptable. We want to see students are responsive. Okay, responsive. They are able to respond. They are able to answer. They are able to give explanation to their concern. It will be too bad if you are about to get your PhD and they ask you question, you are unable to answer any single one. But trust me, it happened. Okay, it happened. Don't do that because it will bring the very wrong impression on how ready you are to be called a doctor, for example, or at least an expert in the area. Because once you get your master, at least you are seen as an expert in your area. And then after that, once everything is over, then they will conclude. Okay, they will conclude without the student now. They will be asking you to leave the room for a while, and they will have a discussion in private among them to really discuss about the outcome, whether or not to pass you, whether or not to fail you, whether or not you will be asked to do minor or major corrections. Okay, so once done here, then you'll be asked to join in, and they will actually make known to you about the outcome of the Viva session. So some people cry here, some people leap with joy here. So we have different cases here. Okay, but sometimes that is what happen. Sorry, sometimes that is what happen, and do expect something, sometimes funny things happening here, right? To the extent that student could be speechless, to the extent student could be crying, student could be pleading for mercy and all that, as in the case of few students that were actually uh, awarded, not awarded, but regarded as stage. I mean, not stage, but category 4. Okay, scale 4. Resubmission happened. Okay, last time many years ago. Uh, for my case, I was there as the chairman. Okay, it was not. They were not actually student under my department, but I was there as a chairman. So student was actually trying to make every single possible way to ask the panel to revert the decision to award the scale of 4. Okay, but it's too bad because the decision has been made. Of course, sometimes, most of the time, it is just a very pleasant experience for the student here because they could be awarded with a pass, with minor, or with major. But of course, pass. That's the most important thing. Right. So in order for you to prepare your presentation material, make sure you have all these things. So in a way, they should actually reflect the main content of your thesis. The title needs to be there, of course. In some introduction, literature review need to be there so that you can put your work in the right perspective. Okay, and also here the problem statement. Okay, what's the problem? What is the thing that you need? And of course, sometimes you can also add the thing that I mentioned to you just now: the problem statement, the motivation of the study, the novelty. All those things need to be there in one slide, probably, right? And objective. I think all the work need to be based on a certain objectives. Right? It could be 4, it could be 5, it could be more, right? But as once you put any objective in your work, you should be able to address them. If you are not able to address the objective,